Okay, this video is going to teach you how to design your screen mockups. We are here in the process, but let's quick take stock of what we've done so far. So we went through Confabulator, we created our foundational docs, integrated it with our GitHub, and then imported those files and had it generate the GitHub issues. And then in the last video, we got our environment set up. So we're basically now ready. We've got Claude Code installed, these dependencies. Claude Code is running within Cursor. We got our GitHub integrated with a SSH key. We set up the GitHub command line interface, and it's all hooked up, and we proved that it now can talk to GitHub, and we can technically start working right now. But we're going to resist that urge to dive right in and start cowboy coding here, and instead, we're going to take what's called a design-first approach. So I'll link to this article. This is a great rationale of why you should do this method, why this is better than just diving right in and having Claude start building the app. But basically, we're going to build the screens before we build any of the back end part of the app. Yeah, and the reason we do this, if you were to start diving in and building stuff, there's a good chance that it's just not going to be quite right. By putting all the screens out there and linking them up and essentially having a high fidelity clickable prototype, that allows us to get our hands dirty with it and actually see it in practice. You know, we can see exactly what we're going to build, and we take an incremental approach to get there. We're actually going to triangulate this via 3 different methods, and this is what I'm going to show you today. But we already have this super low fidelity wireframes done in ASCII. So that's like the very simple, it already exists. We're going to go look at that right now. I'm going to show you this other method of getting a prototype very quickly built using Claude Desktop. It has something called artifacts. And so you can just literally drag the PRD file in there and it'll generate a prototype from that. And then the more detailed version that we're going to do here lastly is this Frame Zero. Frame Zero is this, it's like a Balsamiq mockups type app. And it has what's called an MCP, a Model Context Protocol connector. That's a mouthful, but basically I can integrate Claude Code so it will talk directly to this app and it will just build. It'll just draw the screens out. It's pretty magical to watch it, you'll see. But it's just basically going to design all this stuff in front of us. And so we're going to ask it, hey, show us what you're intending to build before you build it. And that's just going to save us a lot of heartache in the end, a lot of like code debt and having to unwind stuff that isn't quite right. So to the extent that we can reduce waste and get it right out of the gate, that really helps us. Like the projects of these that I've seen go off the rails usually do so because early on you kind of go down a rabbit hole of the wrong thing, and now you have to strip out code, and now it's kind of confused and it goes off the rails. So to the extent we can keep it building what we want from the get-go, that's going to be really helpful for us. Okay, so let's start with this. Let's review the wireframes MD doc. So I realized in my video yesterday, I pulled down the Vibecode Lisboa. I pulled down the repo for this site. I should have pulled down the app that we're building, Dog Tinder. But this is going to give me the opportunity to show you how to do it a different way. So here is the repo. If you strip off this last part here, that is the repo. And so if you grab this, you can go into the command line and let's navigate to our Node.js projects. And this is where I have all my project files here. I'm now operating on a different user account. This is just my main one where I do all the dev. I used a dummy throwaway one yesterday to show you that setup because I had to do it from scratch. So I'm going to pull this down here, and what I'm just going to do is say git clone and then that URL, and it's now going to pull it down. And the reason this works is because it's a public repository. It doesn't require the SSH method that we used yesterday because that was password protected. Okay, so now we've got this here. You can see Dog Tinder, can navigate to it, and it's got the files in there. So we can now go into Cursor and open up that folder. You can see here source control is integrated. And so here we go. So let's look in the confabulator directory. Let's find the wireframes file. This is it. Just so you know, Shift Command V on a Mac lets you preview markdown files. So you can see this is much prettier to look at than this. It's just easier to scan it. So this is basically like the lowest fidelity take on what we're doing. So it says our home screen. It's just kind of a simple one with some navigation up here, navigation in the footer, just a simple call out section here. Swipe screen makes sense. This is, you picture like a dog image and then some stats and details on the dog, little swipe left, swipe right. So this is basically giving us like our lowest fidelity take on what all needs to be in the different screens of this application: the messaging, the appointment booking, profile creation. And so this is like just kind of a sanity check. It's hard to visualize because this is such a low fidelity, version of it. But don't worry, because we're going to do a different method to help show this. So let me show you this Claude code, Claude desktop. So it has this thing called artifacts. And under here, there's one called PRD to prototype. So if I click into this, and then I'm going to go find my file here, the PRD. And let's grab this and just drag this into here and say generate prototype. So it is now in the background going through our product requirements doc, and it's coming up with its own screens, and it's going to turn this into a single page HTML file that is clickable. It uses JavaScript. So this is an artifact that you can just pass around and you can send people. Like, this is the quickest way to get something clickable and real into anyone's hands. So you can already have a discussion about this and show this to someone. Whatever you're building, this will give you, Claude's take on what the screens could look like for it. So while it's doing that, let's check what we're going to do next. Frame Zero, you can install that. You get it here, framezero.app. It's a free download. I believe it only works on Mac, unfortunately. So if you're on Windows, I'm not sure what to tell you. Let's see if they have a Windows. Nope, they do have a Windows. Okay, cool. So yeah, so you can use it on Mac or Windows. You'll download that, and then we're going to install this, our first MCP server. So let me show you what MCP, real quick. I won't go too in depth on this, but Model Context Protocol. So this is, they call it the USB-C standard, basically. It's like this hub. It's a way to have all these different services talk to different LLMs. And so you can connect, basically, this is like how you get like ChatGPT or Claude or any of these things to not just be able to write text, but to actually be able to interface with systems and do stuff on your behalf. And it's a whole thing in terms of like a handshake of how it works, where the service will announce its capabilities, and then, if you're using Claude in this case, it will basically, it knows what it wants to do, and so it will say, okay, what can you do, service? Oh, you can do these 5 things. Okay, I need to list whatever. I need to, in the case of Frame Zero, like I can draw, I can, paint these objects on the canvas. I can put text on the canvas. So it'll announce the capabilities, and then Claude knows how to use it. So it's really just like a way of exposing capabilities of different services in this universal format. It's super cool. There's just been an absolute like explosion of adoption with this. And this was actually put out by, it was almost, I think it's exactly a year ago to the date, actually, November 25th last year, that the 2 guys from Anthropic put this standard out there. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so let's see if it's finished. I'm sure it has. If we go back here, here is our clickable. Let's download the HTML. And let's see what this looks like in a browser. Okay, so here you can see it's given us our thing. I mean, it doesn't have like the swipe, the cutesy, like animated stuff going on, but it gives you just like a basic take on the interface here. And it didn't, like, this is a little broken in terms of how it displayed it here. Favorites, appointments, but at least you can see it's got the main screens of the app. So this isn't something I would actually give anyone because it's, you know, it's got some brokenness here. But it's like a way to get something quick. And I have seen some of these that actually turned out pretty decent in terms of like helping you visualize things. But again, we're getting progressively more and more high fidelity here as we go. So we're not going to use either of these. I just show them because they're like I said, is a way of triangulating what screens you want to have. This helps you see it and start to visualize and then start to know what you need. But it's going to be frame 0 that actually where we do the heavy lifting here. So I've already got frame 0 installed. It's here. Let's go ahead and open it. And I'm using the free version. You don't actually need to pay for it. Oops, let's see. Okay, so you don't need to pay for it. It's just going to watermark all your images. You can just screenshot them too, though, and that will remove the watermark. But it's not a big deal to have the watermark in there. So we're just going to use the free version of this, and let's open up Cursor. And we need to add that the MCP. I got kind of spun out on a rabbit hole there. So MCP is that connection standard. We're now going to add the MCP connector for frame 0 that enables Claude Code to now talk to this application. So I'm going to go grab this. I'll put this in the show notes so you can just copy paste it. This is the magic here though, so I'm going to copy that, and we're going to go into Cursor. And I wish there was a more kind of visual way to install this, but there isn't. So we got to go in here and say open, and this is the file that has it. So the .claude.json in your root directory, and it's usually at the end. So I'll just scroll up here. Yeah, it's right here. So you could also just do a find for MCP servers. So I've got 2 already installed. If you look in Cursor here, the way you can know that, let me just run Claude here to show you what ones are running right now. So this will show you that these 2 are currently running when you start Claude. All right, so now we're running. So if we go MCP, this will shows you those 2 that are currently running, right? So let's go in here. Let's get out of there, and we'll add it here, just right after that open braces. We'll paste it in, and then we got to make sure we put a comma here, otherwise it'll break it. You can see down here, it's corrupted. But now we got the comma there. Let's save it, cancel out of here, and we got to restart Claude Code for this to take effect. So we say exit, and then we just go right back into it here. And now if we run MCP again, it shows us now it's got the frame 0 connected. And I don't leave this running all the time just because usually you're only doing like UX work up front, and then you don't really need it. And these MCPs each consume tokens in your context window. We'll get into this in detail later, but like if you run context, this is a useful command. So this will show you basically like a visual representation of what's consuming the tokens in your context window. All this is free right now, and that's what we want. We want to have as much free as possible because that lets us work longer and do more stuff. And it basically, as you chew through tokens, as you have a longer and longer conversation with Claude, it eats through this context window to the point where then you either have to clear it or compress it. So the goal here is up front to have as few things consuming tokens as possible. But for now, we need this, so we're going to use it. So I'll get out of here. And now our goal is to say we want Claude Code to read the PRD and read the implementation plan and then basically take a shot at stubbing this out and show us what the screens look like. So I'm just going to tell it that. I'm going to say, please read, and then we'll gather the PRD, copy the path, and then the implementation plan. For context, and then please use frame 0, and this is key. This use, when you say use and then the name of the MCP, then it knows to use the MCP server to do something. So use frame 0 to create all the different screen mockups of the app. All right, so I'm gonna run this, and fingers crossed it should find the frame 0 MCP server, and let's just look at it. Let's open frame 0 so it's running here side by side so you can see what it's doing. Okay, so you can see it's working here. It has mapped out, it knows all the screens that it needs to do, and we're gonna have to give it permission here. So typically up front, you've got to do this a few times. We'll see it working here though. It'll ask for permission, and then once we've given it permission and we said you don't need to ask me anymore, then we only have to do this once basically. But yeah, these are all the different commands in the MCP server that it needs to get authority to run. So you can see it's stubbing out. It knows it's a mobile app, so it's stubbing out the iPhone interface. So this is an area, so this bears showing you this trick. Control O will stop this freak out. You can see how this window was freaking out. The reason to do that is I have seen cursor crash before. The cursor, it's technically the cursor renderer process that freaks out and the CPU usage spikes. But basically it's going back and forth and doing, like, trying to render what it's doing, and it's unable to do that fast enough, and it just like overloads the system and freaks out. So Control O will fix that issue. You won't be able to see what it's doing at any given moment, but it's fine because we can see over here in the right side, all it's doing is just making these screens. So so I disabled I basically froze it, so it like zoomed in on one. It'll drill in and show you the details of one process that it's doing, and that will stop it from like flipping back and forth and trying to render everything. So anyways, I just want to show you that because that's a tip to be aware of. Control O, the letter O, will stop that. All right, back to fast forward here. Okay, so it's finishing up now. It looks like it's done. It's done all 9 screens. Let's take a look at them here. Let's go through. Okay, pretty simple. Login screen. The dog, just looking at a dog profile. Looks like, what is it? Oh, so this is the swipe interface. And this is if you want to book an appointment. So it's like the dog details. Here's the list of liked dogs, your appointment booking, so that's really nice. Confirmation, the messaging system, being able to go back and forth when you're talking to the dog shelter, and the shelter dashboard. Now this one, you can see it got some stuff that's wacky there. So what I'm gonna do is, this is a good opportunity to show you this idea of taking a screenshot and then just dragging it in here. So that's on my desktop here. So I'm just gonna drag that into cursor, and I'm gonna say, can you fix the, what is it, shelter dashboard screen it has some elements overflowing the phone boundary. So it'll actually read that screenshot, see that it screwed it up, and then go ahead and fix these, move these things where they need to be. So just watch it fix. And of course, we could just drag it ourselves. It's frankly probably simpler to just resize it ourselves. I mean, this was a simple instance. I probably should have just resized it, but I wanted to show you how you can work with it and have it, any changes you wanted to see. If we wanted any of the functionality to be different here in the app, this is our chance to kind of workshop it with Claude, go back and forth, and then get it to the state where we're happy with it. And pretty obviously, this is the highest fidelity mocks that we have. So we're going to go with this, and we're going to eliminate the other ones. And that's a key concept to keep in mind, is that you don't want baggage laying around. If you have conflicting context, that will confuse it going forward. So we can definitely eliminate the wireframes doc. And I never brought this prototype HTML doc into here, so it's not going to be a problem. Get rid of this. Quit out of Slack. Oh, by the way, these are current students in their current cohort. They're in their final week, and they are asking questions and building stuff and moving along. So it's pretty exciting. We're going to have 5 different apps to demo this time next week. It's pretty cool. Okay, so it's done its job. It's resized everything. I just wanted to show you that. We now have basically like our first set of screens. So the thing to do here is to export these. You can do it one of 2 ways. You can go in through and just do file, export images. I think it's frankly just as simple to quickly screenshot everything and throw it in a directory. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Let's go here. The welcome screen is pretty sparse, but whatever. So I'm just going to take a bunch of screenshots here. Okay, so I've now renamed all these images. I'm just going to put them in a folder called mocks. Let's grab all these, drag them in there, and then I'm going to put these in Confabulator in this subfolder called mocks here. And like I said, now's the time to actually get rid of this wireframes doc, because it's going to conflict with what we have. This is no longer the source of truth. We want these mocks screen to be the source of truth. So we're going to make this commit, but before we do, I'm just going to tell Claude, let's just do this via dictation. So we now have the mocks directory as the source of truth for all the screens for this application. Can you update the Claude MD file to indicate that it should use this directory, the mockups in this directory, for building all of the front end UI interface? Oops. And then you can see it put Claude, so it doesn't know it's this. Let's just do this. Give it the exact file location. Oops, and it's also, let's redo this. Got mocks wrong as well. Mocks. Okay, now we got it. And as you can see, I'm doing this, like, this is not polished or scripted or anything. You're seeing kind of, I wanted this to be purely as we go, not polished. It should be, you should see all the struggle and errors and rough edges, because I feel like if I do it too polished and you see that it just works right the first time, you're going to miss, it's going to seem like it's easier than it is. Like, in the reality of this stuff is you're just constantly working through a lot of little fixes and errors and flaws, and getting comfortable with how, like, the mindset, probably the best thing I can convey to you is how to think about talking to Claude and how you work with it as a team member. So that will be, if you come away with anything, that's probably the best thing. So, okay, I've updated the Claude MD file to blah, blah, blah. Central reading. Okay, so it now references that. So it knows that this is the source of truth for doing anything UX related. And I think this is probably a good place to wrap it. So what we've done here is we've gone through, and we're going to do our first git commit. So anytime you make progress and you're at it's like a good milestone to, you've got like a chunk of work done that's right and we're happy with, then you want to commit that work. And the way you do that here, you can do a couple different ways. You can just tell it, you can say, please commit these changes to Git. That would work. But I'm going to show you the visual source control way that I do. So this shows you what actually has changed in our project. And these are all eligible now. So what we do is we push this little plus button to stage the changes. You can hit this icon here, and it basically uses AI to write a commit message for you, and then commit. When I hit commit, it's now committed to our local GitHub repo, but this does not yet exist. If you want to see here, nothing has changed yet here. Like, you'll see the mocks directory appear in a second. So when we hit sync changes, this is the same as running the push to main, like the git origin push command. And so this is now going to send it to the remote GitHub repo. And so now that's done. So now if we refresh here, we'll see that the mocks directory is there with all the different mockups in it, right? Okay, cool. I think this is a good place to wrap it up. We've done everything here. You've gotten a flavor, a little introduction to MCP, how it can integrate with external systems, and this idea of having it go through and show us what it's intending to create. So we now have these screens. So we have essentially a meeting of the minds on what it envisions the front end UX to look like. We could go to our friends now with this. We could create this into like a clickable prototype if we really wanted to. We're going to do that in a minute, but up next we're going to do an architectural review. I'll show you what that's all about, and then we're actually going to go and turn these mocks into actual screens with dummy data in them. So stay tuned for that.